the one thing you notice with Kinlaw, who had that explosive sack today, where he like came out. I had to rewind the play like 3 times. Like, where did he come from? But even if you watch a lot of the other snaps, he doesn't go backwards, which at his position is half the battle, right? It's not about the sacks. It's just about pressing the pocket up, and he does that a ton. I mean, he just.
When we went live and did the podcast on Thursday, had that video gone viral of him walking across the field half naked and looking?
No, we did not. Or like the photo. I saw the photo.
In his prime.
No, we did not talk about that.
He is a massive, massive human being. Obviously, we've talked about that, but that specific photo was like, holy shit. And here's what we know, and we've been hammering this home the whole time, and the 49ers know this. He just got to get to the field. Like, the only question mark with him is like, how many games can he play? Can he be on the field? Because if he's healthy, it's impossible for him not just to be solid. Now, how great, like, is he going to do this all the time? I don't know. Time will tell. I know this. He immediately is an impact player for them just because if he's just giving them 8 to 10 snaps, 3 or 4 of those are going to be, like you said, not getting pushed back, forcing a runner to go the other way, maybe just giving a stunt, or maybe he just runs over a guy. Like, he's going to make shit happen. He's just got to get to the field. That's what I know about him. He's just got to get there. And so far, you would say it's gone. I don't know if it could have gone that much smoother. Would you say this training camp with him? No setbacks, no like, well, Kinlaw's got to ice today. Now they've eased him in, but it has been, last week had to be pretty big, right? He had been playing, then they bring him. He practices both times, and he played even into the second half. So I would guess with him specifically, it was like, let's get him a couple reps early in the game. Let's get him to halftime and then see how he comes out. They're kind of like amping him up. It just, to me, they're building on positives with a player.
Yeah.
And to me, what's like, sometimes even I forget this just because he's been out of sight, out of mind. Like, he was a top 15 pick based on like 3 games. This is not some like little engine that could, or some character guy that fell in the draft. This guy was such a blue chip potential home run. There's a couple of these every draft in like the top 20 where it's like, they took a big swing here, but if this hits, Mekhi Becton a couple years ago was one, and he's been kind of a disaster. But everyone's like, well, you just can't find dude 6'7", 370 pounds that can move like that.
Yeah.
His film was a little hit or miss, but like the talent, no one disputes it. Kinlaw, JC transfer, but throw on the Clemson game, throw on the Georgia game, enough said. It's like, well, what about the other games? Yeah, it didn't look great, but just throw on those. And it was like, 14th pick overall.
The thing you notice about him, too, is that I think when he's healthy, every game he'll do things that look like a top 15 pick or a top 10 pick, right? He will make a play. He will do something, chasing somebody down that's much smaller than him. That sack he had today, like, he will do something. That's the thing about him, right? Like Solomon Thomas, and maybe it's not a fair example, but you could watch games and he wouldn't even flash, right? That just wasn't physically.
He would just like run into the tackle.
This guy, he will do something if he's on the field consistently.
Solomon played the run pretty well.
Right, but that doesn't flash. I'm saying this guy whose job is not necessarily to sack the quarterback will, if he plays 17 games or however many games he plays, he will do something in every single game that reminds you that he's a top 15 pick and a blue chip prospect. In addition to that, if he's just on the field, his floor is pretty high. So that's a pretty good combination. Now, does that translate to Aaron Donald? Well, nobody has yet. So, but
they're not even,
and he benefits so much from being on this defense.
They're not looking for him either to all of a sudden be some all-pro top 10 pick, right? They're just looking for him to have 3 or 4 snaps a game that are impact snaps, and the other 10 just to be neutral, would be solid, right? The bar is relatively low for, I think, what they're looking for. Now, if he does take a step above, I think, just the low bar, I think, D'Amico and John Lynch would be doing cartwheels, right? I think if you just said, what's the number one thing you're looking for? Just playing games. Just get there. And I would say so far the last couple weeks have been a very, very positive sign for him. Like I would say the best thing that ever happened to him is when everyone freaked out last year and he had to leave and get the microfracture surgery. It was the right move because clearly the way they were on with the knee, not, some days it would work, some days it was not feasible to keep going at that rate. Yeah. And I think sometimes the hardest thing is to rip the Band-Aid off and just go into whatever the surgery. And it really sucked at the time because when the headline, he went down to LA, had microfracture surgery. I think most people's reaction is like, oh, we're never going to get shit out of this.
Yeah.
Come a long way since then. Because I think both of us said, like, it's hard to ever count on him again just because the unknown, that word, like that, what that triggers in you, like it's not just like, well, he had a major knee surgery, right?
And I think you're not out of the woods with holding your breath. Mike on the stream says they seem to have a lot of confidence in Kinlaw's knee playing him this much. I agree, but I would also say this is more like, is it that they have confidence in him, in his knee, or is it that they need him to pass this test so they can know that they can rely on him? To me, it's more about that. Like,
yeah, I agree.
You're not babysitting him until the regular season. You need him to like pass these tests of being ready week after week after week after week.